That's it?
That's
okay,
it.
shorty. This is the best movie about a shoe ever made.
Okay. We're back.
Okay, we're back. So I think now we are. You, George, right?
It's my movie, and let's watch a trailer.
1984 has been a tough year. Our sales are down, our growth is down.
Sonny, I brought you in here to grow the basketball business.
People don't know what the hell a Nike is.
What's a Converse?
NBA All-Star shoe.
There's nothing cool about Nike.
You would have to have a pretty compelling pitch.
I can tell them the one thing the other companies can't compete with. Our basketball division is terrible.
I do not love it. This is where you come up with a brilliant idea that no one else can see. Let's hear it.
I got it. I found him.
Who's that? Jesus? Can't afford it.
I'm willing to bet my career on one guy. My name's Sonny Vaccaro. I'm with Nike.
Do you typically make it a habit of showing up at people's front doors unannounced?
I don't like to take no for an answer.
Oh, man. Here we go.
You ask me what I do here. This is what I do. I find you players, and I feel it this time. Yeah, okay, it's risky. When you were selling sneakers out of the back of your Plymouth, that was risky. Don't change that now.
For a rookie?
Yes.
Who's never set foot on an NBA court.
That's the literal definition of rookie, yeah.
What's the plan?
We build a shoe line around just him. I need the greatest basketball shoe that's ever been made.
Who's the player?
Michael Jordan.
Your motor is...
You have our attention.
I believe in your son. I believe he's the future. And his story is gonna make us want to fly. But a shoe is just a shoe.
Until my son steps into it.
What a great trailer. So my movie, I wish I probably forgot to say what it was, is Air. Air. You gotta forget the accent going. So Air. Let me read this. So Air, it's from award-winning director Ben Affleck, reveals the unbelievable game-changing partnership between a then-rookie Michael Jordan and Nike's fledgling basketball division, which revolutionized the world of sports and contemporary culture with Air Jordan brand. So it follows a career-defining gamble of an unconventional team with everything on the line, the uncompromising vision of a mother who knows the worth of her son's immense talent, and the basketball phenom who would become the greatest of all time. So the movie has a huge cast. And if I had my notes here, I would remember who they were. No, so Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Chris Tucker, Chris Messina, I think it is too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Viola Davis, Jason Bateman.
James, the father.
Julius Tennant.
Julius
and Damon Wayans, I think. So,
right.
I mean,
Marlon Wayans.
Marlon Wayans, there you go. One of the Wayans. So, this movie, I actually didn't think I was going to like it. I just saw that it was on and, sports movie. Like, I tend to not like to watch sports movies or movies about musicians because, whatever. But it's actually, the movie's not about Michael Jordan or it's really about Nike and how they went from a tiny company to, what they are now. I really enjoyed this movie. It was better than I expected. And the acting was great. The story was great. What I found amazing is that we all know the outcome of this movie. We all know how it ends, the story. But you're still watching the movie and you're like grinding your teeth. Is it gonna happen? Oh my God, it's so tense. I was so anxious, towards the end. I was like, wait a minute, I know that's how it ends. What am I so anxious? Which is great. How great it was written, which I think it was probably Matt Damon and Ben Affleck who wrote it. So, but I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it. Shorty.
This is the best movie about a shoe ever made. I wanted to see this movie basically because it was directed by Ben Affleck, and I thought that the first movie he directed, Gone Baby Gone, was one of the greatest directorial debuts I've ever seen. I haven't been that crazy about his movies since then, but I think he's a way overlooked actor. He's so good. And if you want to see how really good he is, watch a movie called Movie Land at some point where he plays George Reeves, the TV super.
Great. Yeah. I love that
He's
movie.
sensational in that movie. And this movie is just like, I don't care about sports, but I was with this movie all the way. And I heard that Michael Jordan said he would only make the movie if Viola Davis played his mother. And you see this movie and you see exactly why. She is as incredible as always. She's so good. And, it's like I don't have all that much more to say about it because I saw it when it came out, so I don't remember it, the different things about it that much. But I do remember that I loved the movie. I recommended it to people. And I'm recommending it to you because it's a wonderful movie. I can't think of anybody not enjoying this movie. It really delivers. You're going to get exactly what you go to see and then some in some cases. Because like I say, I'm not that much into sports movies, although I just went crazy binging Ted Lasso. But Ted Lasso is not just about sports; it's about humanity, and so was this. This was about like these guys. This is a wonderful underdog story. Oh, and the guy who played Michael Jordan was just sensational.
Also, what an amazing intro! Money for Nothing in the whole 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Well, great soundtrack.
Yeah.
I like you. I was not interested in watching this movie at all. I'm not into sports. I was totally blown away by how much I enjoyed this film. It was like, because like George said, it's really not about sports. It's, it also has that constant 80s soundtrack,
Yes.
which normally would like drive me crazy. It's like, why do they have to use this music all the time? But it really worked. They did it very tastefully, like in a car when somebody was driving or the beginning of a scene. It didn't play all the way through, but it kept bringing you back to the time. I thought it did the job it was supposed to do. It was really good. And I think that's hard to do.
Yes, I agree.
Let's see. Matt Damon as Sonny Vaccaro gave an Academy Award performance, I think. I know the story. I mean, I know what happened with Nike. I know what happened with Michael Jordan. And it's like, and I was still, like George said, I was still sweating it. Like, oh my God, is he going to get that? Right? So great to see Chris Tucker. I wish I would see more of Chris Tucker. I loved him. He's great on film. Camera loves him. You like him. He's great.
And really subtle. I mean, he's not as outrageous as he normally is.
I appreciated that a lot.
I was really impressed.
His character is Howard White. And I believe that character, Howard White, had a lot to do with them getting the contract. You know what I mean? He had a lot to do with it.
And I've seen Howard White interviewed, and I'm going, that's Chris Tucker.
More Chris Tucker, please. Anyway, so I love Michael Jordan's parents, Viola Davis as Dolores Jordan, and Julius Tenen as James Jordan. And he was a doll. I mean, the father was such a sweet man. I loved him. And the mother was actually very sweet too, but she was a hard cookie. She was protecting her son. And she had a great business sense. It was like, whoa. She was.
To which her husband placated to her. He was always, he looked after her, but she looked after the son in a way. It was really interesting.
Yeah. And I kept having to remind myself too that, okay, you have to go back in time that Michael Jordan was not a given. I mean, we're lucky. We know who Michael Jordan is. Michael Jordan's great now, right? Where Michael, what do it's going to be, but they didn't. He was undersized. He's only 6'6". You're playing a college unique. Could go, anything could happen to you. They are taking a risk, and that's why it's so great. They were really taking a risk, but it's hard to remember that now. That's what I say. It's like 2020 hindsight. Yes, 2020 hindsight is Michael Jordan. But then it was like, everybody was taking a risk. She was taking a risk. Viola Davis, because she was like, what she wanted was, in that time, was considered outrageous. The athlete getting a cut. What? It was, so love this film. Basically a business, a movie about business gambling. So even though we know how this works out, the film manages to create the tension. And you're wondering, is he going to get the contract? That's pretty good.
Well, it's sort of funny. I didn't have that aspect to it, the suspense part. Bob had told me, it's like, oh, you see this movie. And then he mentioned about like Viola Davis. And I think he also mentioned the thing, about Michael Jordan saying, no, I'd want her to play the mother. So I kept waiting for her to show up. So, and this doesn't happen for the longest time, but before it gets there, it's like, oh, I like the drama that's going on. Matt Damon is just seeing every high schooler, every college. He's trying to find the new superstars to represent Nike because they have, which I didn't know, a basketball division. Now, I'm just going to tell you, relate my thing to Nike. I never heard of Nike until Michael Jordan. I know the shoe was probably around because the running shoe, because they mentioned that. Mm-hmm. They were like the number one running shoe. But they wanted to break into basketball. I was not a runner, so I never heard of that Nike. So to be quite honest, it wasn't until Michael Jordan started getting fined by wearing Nike shoes that it's like, oh, so what is Nike? And then I found out. And then, of course, they were his own shoe. Here's the weird part is that, like I said, knowing the story, you're just watching it. It's like, how is he going to convince? How does he get this person on? Because they really show you the in and outs of the shoe business at the time. And I love the sequence in which Chris Tucker's character tells him, go to the mothers. Chris Tucker's talking as an African-American. Mothers are the ones who sort of, the athletes seem to listen to.
They're the head of the family.
Seemingly, right.
Yes.
As far as when it comes to their career and everything, that the mothers are the ones giving advice, supporting them, whatever, right? Which, again, I thought was sort of funny because I had heard about that. And even if you watch sports and see commercials, they're always with their mothers,
Exactly.
very rarely with the fathers.
It's
right?
so true.
Which is why so Matt Damon's in a lot of trouble. He cannot find this player. He's saying, well, we can try these. But then it literally comes that Chris Tucker gives an advice. So he sort of breaks it and he meets with the mother. In fact, actually, he meets with the parents. It's the father who says, oh, yeah, no, almost in a way, no, you need to talk to her. Like I said, he placates to her. He does, though, throughout the movie, if you watch, he keeps asking, how are you? He's looking after her, but she's looking after her son, which I thought was sort of fascinating. But then he tells her, okay, I know he's going, because Adidas apparently was the favorite shoe because that's the shoe that Michael Jordan wore at the time. For high school or college, whatever.
Also, I remember at that time that Run DMC and Aerosmith did a music video.
Right.
No, not Aerosmith. That was another one. That's Walk This Way. Mm-hmm. Run DMC had a song, My Adidas.
Right. Exactly.
And the whole song was a promo for those shoes. And I remember I was young at the time. And I was
like I said, I heard of Adidas, but what I knew even more than that is in basketball, it was Converse. In fact, that's the shoe I wore. I always wore Converse high tops. So these two shoe companies were in my head. Nike was not. So these are the two major competitive companies that they had to deal with. So the way Matt Damon's character, that Sonny Vaccaro, has to deal with this, I thought was really fascinating. But it is him trying to sell it. That's what I wanted to see. I want to say, how does he get somebody to do this? But I think ultimately you're right. I think it was the deal that the mother comes up with that was truly the groundbreaking thing. Because it's like, oh, even Phil Knight, Ben Affleck is playing Phil Knight, and I was mentioning it earlier too. There are a couple scenes where he actually has the expression of Phil Knight, and I thought, I'm seeing Ben Affleck, but just looking at the face, that's the kind of face Phil Knight makes. He's telling him, no, I've given you enough money. You have to do your job better. You have to do this. And so everyone's being pushed to the limit. One character or actor I want to point out is that Matthew Maher. He's the one who plays Peter Moore, who was the designer of the actual shoe.
Oh, yeah, he's great. He's great.
He is such a colorful, weird little character that the little scenes he's in, I think he sort of steals them with these other actors. I mean, he's really sort of I'm just sort of almost chuckling every time I see him on screen. And yet you can tell his passion is about design. So there even comes to a moment about when the term Air Jordans come up that I just started laughing. In fact, there's another aspect too. This movie made me laugh like several times, especially with Chris Messina playing the agent dealing with Matt Damon's character. There were scenes where I laughed out loud, and I was surprised by that because it's like, yeah, I guess it's almost like a cliche agent of being just sort of ruthless, but they just turned out.
They were funny. They were funny.
And yet you wonder if that animosity was sort of true because everything is made deals with the agents. So I have to admit, I thought this was an entertaining movie, lots of drama, lots of fun in this movie though. And this is something like you guys said, I would never, ever have watched it. I'm not really interested that much in basketball, but it is because of the time period. This is when I grew up, and I grew up on MTV 84. So you're right. All that music was fascinating. All the cultural references to me, like you said about when they mentioned the thing about Run DMC and Adidas, the Converse and everything. It was just sort of fascinating. And so kudos to everyone. And though the person who wrote the screenplay, though, was Alex Convery, because Ben Affleck, I thought, did a wonderful job directing, and that was a wonderful screenplay, I have to admit.
Pat?
It's you, Patty.
I would never think, if someone said you're going to watch a movie about shoes, I would never, thank you, Frank. I would never think it would be any good. But I got to tell you, this is a really well-made movie. Actors, it really shows good acting. Hold on. Frankie, stop!
You like the movie?
Yeah, he likes the movie. Come on, come here. Up. Yeah, great. And it really shows you good acting when all these guys are so great. It makes it effortless, and really they're just everyday people. And I've always thought in acting, that would be a very hard part to play. Not extreme type things, but everyday kind of person. The great thing about the role that Chris Tucker has, he actually knows that guy.
Yeah.
And when he was, in fact, the story is, ask Chris Tucker, he knows everybody. And he does. He knows, supposedly he knows people you would never think anybody would know. Like, it's not in his field. And I was totally into that movie from point A to point B. It just didn't stop. And I think that has to do with great casting and great actors to make everything seem very perfect. It was a perfect movie.
I agree. Yes. And that was also too when I noticed that it kept getting like people were, I listened to film critics and it kept getting great reviews. So it was like,
it's going to suck.
It's like,
but you know what? There's such great well-known actors. And after a while, you kind of forget. You forget that that's Jason Bateman. You kind of get into the character.
Yeah. Oh yes, Jason Bateman. Yeah, of course.
Then you get into the character. So
absolutely. And then I usually don't like movies where famous people are in it because it's too distracting for me. It's like, that's.
But these were all good famous people.
Yeah,
they
did a great job.
Well,
they did a great job.
Honest, I think that's why I have a problem with the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon kind of stuff. It's like, oh gosh, it's going to be them. I'm going to see them. And I do. But again, in this movie, I thought it worked very well.
They're both top-notch actors.
Yeah. Very much like that Ford versus Ferrari. And it's another movie I didn't think I was going to like, but it's like, it's not so much about the sport. It really is about the drama, about creating something new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's true of even of sports movies. It's not usually about the game. No. It's about the interaction of people and stuff like that. So anyways, we're gonna that was your movie.
Also, I was gonna say that the last thing they said they hadn't worked together in a while. Was it The Last Duel that they did together?
Oh, that was a fantastic movie. It was totally under.
I'm sorry, which movie?
Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, The Last Duel. It was about a French duel, which is the Last
Duel.
Oh,
yes.
Totally underrated. Right.
Yes.
Totally underrated.
That's what we did, yeah.
That movie
I was surprised.
That movie should have been considered for something and it wasn't.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was like blown away with that movie. It was great. Anyway, so I guess it will be me because you don't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I give this movie, I give it a 10. Good.
Yeah, I gave this a 6.
I give it an 8.
Yeah, I'll give it a 10.
Okay.
So, We'll be back.
So that's a wrap. Thank you for watching this episode of What the Flicks podcast. I hope you'll check out some of the movies we suggested because a lot of them are really good and we would love to hear your comments. Remember to subscribe, like us, and leave a comment. So until next time, adios.